The next arrests would prove far more challenging. Friday, July the 29th, leafy North Kensington. The Met's firearms team, CO19, is called to a block of flats.
Every place that we went to had the potential to have subjects inside, and every operation was run on that basis.
As officers begin to secure the area, residents realised this was to be no ordinary Friday morning.
Whilst on the phone, I had to glance across, as you do, from a view out the window, and notice policemen, some in the armoured bodysuits and things. So I knew something big was sort of potentially gonna happen. Didn't for the life of me think that it was terrorists at all.
Suddenly, an officer identifies one of the suicide bombers through a window. A repeat of Madrid now becomes a real possibility.
And at that point, obviously, the mood changed. And I remember the explosive officer who was present with us in that normal, calm, professional manner that they put across news that if they had more than £6 worth of explosives, then we were all dead.
It is imperative the police try to take control of events. First step, make contact with the terrorists.
After what seemed like a fair bit of time, maybe half an hour or so, the police started to shout out the name Mohammed. Mohammed, Mohammed, and that's when I had the first inklings. What's this all about, you know?
Next, clear the floors below the flat. Residents are evacuated as the media start to arrive.
Hunting down the bombers. After the biggest operation the Metropolitan Police has launched, the net closes.
Move back, please!
The scene that greeted me as I arrived was not that unusual. And at that time, there were a number of police operations. So the sight of armed police officers, lots of them moving on the block of flats, wasn't that unusual. It started to get unusual when the explosions happened.
Oh my God. My son is in there. Away from the building, they thought that that was a bomb that had gone off. But in fact it wasn't, it was the door that was blown off. It did occur to me then that they were terrorists. That they were terrorists, and then that's when the fear kicked in.
The tension at this moment cannot be overstated. There were two bombers in a flat. The police knew that they were there. They thought they were probably going to blow themselves up in an attempt to take out some of the police officers who'd come for them.
The police must act quickly.
The longer they were inside, the more planning that they could undertake, and the greater the risk to us. So we breached the door and we gained vision inside, and it also gave us an idea of their location, and we were able then to implement further tactics to draw them out. So at that stage we fired CS into the front of the building.
It's not exactly clear what it is, but we've now heard 4 shots coming from the direction of the flats over there.
You don't often get a scene like that played out in front of your camera. It was only later when we saw the footage that we realised just who they'd caught and the circumstances in which we'd caught them.
The stinging, burning sensation of CS gas proved too much, and the bombers surrendered. First out is Mukhtar Saeed Ibrahim, an Eritrean who moved to Britain when he was 12. He is the Hackney bus bomber. Second is Ramzi Mohammed, a Somalian who moved to Britain at 19. He is the Oval Underground bomber. After a 3-hour standoff, the police had got their men. But there was still one man on the loose, Hussein Osman, the Shepherd's Bush bomber. His escape plan was altogether more complex and ambitious than that of any of the other bombers. But despite Britain being on high alert, he was able to slip through border security and flee the country.
There were a large number of potential lines of inquiry in relation to Osman. There was an enormous amount of work going on in respect of him, and we began to get a clear view of where he may have gone to and how he may have got there.
Osman used his brother's passport to board the Eurostar train to Waterloo. He hadn't used his phone in a week to avoid detection, but decided to text friends when outside the UK. Big mistake. Police tracked the phone all the way to Italy, where he had relatives. Just hours after Ibrahim and Mohammed were caught, Osman was arrested by Italian police. The Shepherd's Bush bomber was in custody and the manhunt was finally over. In an astonishing 8 days, police had captured all 5 men who had set out to cause chaos and to kill scores of innocent people.
I think the sense I most remember was, I think, an enormous pride on behalf of the men and women in the command who'd managed to pull off, I think, an amazing achievement.
Capture is one thing. Securing a conviction is altogether different. The bombers were to come up with an ingenious defence that would test all the skills of the police and the Crown Prosecution Service.
But however strong your case is, you're never sure that the jury's going to convict. They may acquit or they may fail to reach a verdict.
January 2007, and the 5 men stand trial for attempting mass murder on the capital's transport network. Their defence surprises everyone. Their claim: the attacks were nothing more than a publicity stunt to protest against British troops in Iraq.
Well, the bombers' defence was that all of that had been a sham, a pretense, a protest. Sure, they were going to do something, but nothing was ever going to be detonated and nobody was ever going to be hurt.
If the jury believed that, then the men would walk free. The police and the CPS would work for 2 years to secure their conviction.
Initially, they said that the devices were a hoax, that they hadn't intended to cause an explosion, they just wanted to cause a noise. We had a wealth of evidence that showed that these devices weren't a hoax, that these men were suicide bombers.
That evidence laid before the jury revealed a fascinating insight into the defendants' lives. Three of the men used to attend sermons by the infamous radical cleric Abu Hamza at Finsbury Park Mosque. The first evidence of the 4 main bombers coming together was from secret surveillance carried out by police. The jury was told they attended a training camp which they used to prepare for their extremist jihad. Mukhtar Ibrahim went on to attend an Afghan terrorist training camp. It was when he returned that the plot began in earnest. In the 3 months leading up to the attack, the men brought 440 litres of hydrogen peroxide from different wholesalers. They claimed it was for stripping paint. At the Curtis House bomb factory, they had an 18-hour day schedule dedicated to boiling down the liquid to make it more concentrated. They calculated it would take 2.5 hours to turn each 4-litre bottle into a potentially deadly explosive.
Is a very dangerous undertaking in its own right. The effort that had gone into reducing the hydrogen peroxide down to what they felt would be a viable concentration was clearly immense.
The court heard that on the morning of the 21st of July, the 5 men finalised their preparations by watching extremist videos. At around 11 o'clock, they split into 2 groups. CCTV captured the first group here in South London carrying their bomb.